welcome back to this series, Beyond Barriers, with me, Ella B. Now this is a series I'm bringing you in order to help celebrate and share with you all the amazing stories of people who have had such a positive impact on the disabled sporting community. Now we are nearing the end of this series unfortunately, but don't worry, we've still got a few good names still to come, including today. Now today I'm going to introduce you to a new sport of boccia. Now boccia is not very well known, so I'm going to let David Smith tell you even more about it. David Smith is an incredible boccia player and is probably known as one of the best in the world. He is extremely talented and will tell you that boccia takes an extreme amount of precision in order to be very good at it. So I'm sure he'll be able to tell you more about that. David has competed at 3 Paralympics so far and is now aiming for Tokyo for his 4th. He is Paralympic champion in both the team events and individual events, so he's basically unstoppable and he's amazing. And also David is such an amazing character as well. He's got such a laugh and he knows how to have fun. So please do sit back and enjoy this interview, and I hope you learn even more about boccia and David Smith himself. Enjoy!
Hi Ella.
Hey, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. How are you?
There you are. I can see you now. You're right.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, good. My internet's not great, so if it decides to die, I will try and fix it.
Not a problem. Don't worry. That's the life we're in right now, isn't it? Virtual life.
Yeah.
How are things?
Yeah, no, things are good. Been a bit busy, but no, things are okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for letting me do this today as well.
That's all right. No worries.
Take time. Are you busy today? Are you up to much or?
No, not really. I had a meeting this morning, sort of group meeting with some of the guys under the same coach as me. Have a catch up every week, and then yesterday I was training and stuff most of the day. So yeah.
I was going to ask, are you back training? Like, what's the situation now?
So I'm sort of in like a semi-isolated training, I guess.
Okay.
You just so I'm training at the Welsh Institute of Sport in Cardiff. I got 2 sessions a week, so it's not nowhere near what I was doing, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And
is it like you're in a bubble? Can you not leave your bubble? Is that?
Yeah, it's sort of I can get straight through to the court without interacting with people, which is good.
That's good.
So yeah.
Oh, good. Strange times, eh?
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
So I was just going to ask you, can you start off by saying to me a bit about your disability and how old are you when you were diagnosed with it?
Okay. So I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, I think, when I was about 1.
Little.
Yeah. Initially, my mum. Well, my mum knew something was wrong, but the doctors blamed her, and then eventually the diagnosis was sort of proven after a couple of tests and stuff, because I wasn't eating properly apparently and stuff like that. So they kind of yeah.
Blamed her how?
Just saying because she was a new mum, that the excuse was that, oh, you're a new mum, therefore you don't know what you're talking about. Kind of.
That's so bad.
Yeah, welcome to the 1980s. Yeah.
So how does your disability affect you now, but how did it affect you whilst growing up as well?
It hasn't really changed much. So basically, I don't have much use of my legs, so I can stand, but I can't walk. I've got limited range of movement in all 4 limbs. Again, I've got good control and stuff, but limited range, so that inhibits function a little bit. And core stability is a little bit dodgy, coordination-ish. So yeah, a range of things. And I've got a scoliosis of the spine as well, so I'm a little bit bent too. So.
Stop! Yeah. It's always a good one to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you had rods yet?
No, I've managed to avoid all that. So when I was 18, I had the option of going down under the knife, but it was a year before Paralympics, and I asked the question, would my mobility be hindered by it? You know, could they guarantee that I would have the same function after the op as I did before it? And the doctor couldn't, so I told him where to go.
Sorry, not now, thanks. I'm busy.
Yeah.
I had an operation done when I was 16, so I've done it already. So yeah.
Oh, well done. Yeah.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one, but you get through it.
Yeah. No, I just decided not to, and it was probably the best decision I could have made, really.
Yeah. especially with the Paralympics coming up? Ooh,
any sort of operation, and so I'm like, yeah, glad I made that choice at the time.
Definitely the right one. Well done. And so growing up, what were you like as a child? Were you sporty? Did you get involved in lots of different sports, or did you always know that boccia was the one for you?
Yeah, so when I was at secondary school, I was kind of the jack of all trades. So I was good at pretty much everything I touched. So I quite liked music, so I was a drummer at school. Did wheelchair hockey, I was decent at that. We did athletics, again, I was pretty decent at that. Table cricket, didn't enjoy it, but I was pretty good at it. And then obviously boccia was one of the sports. It was probably not one of my favourites because it was a bit less intense than the sort of the wheelchair hockeys and the wheelchair footballs of this world, which involved a bit more hitting each other.
Yeah. A bit more violence.
Yeah, a bit more aggression. But as I got better at it, I realised that there was a lot more to it than just throwing balls near a white. So as I got better, and also there's a competition structure that there wasn't in the other sports that I played. So again, once you start winning, it becomes a bit of a bug. It becomes a bit of a habit, and I was just rocking from one competition to another for most of my teenagers.
So that winning is the bug, really. That's what drew you towards it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did I read somewhere as well? Did you go to the Stoke Mandeville Games much when you were younger? Did you go to them to try out lots of different sports, or?
Yeah, so I went. I remember when it was the National Junior Games, and I went when I was at Cedar School, which was before I went to Trelaws, and I mean there we did all. Again, it was all different sports, and I was actually hopeless at boccia at that point because I used to play sideways because no one sort of mentioned to me that throwing forwards might be beneficial. Because I assumed it was like throwing, because with the cricket ball throw, I threw sideways because I could get more leverage. So I just assumed boccia being a similar sized ball, it made sense to throw it the same sort of way. And yeah, it didn't.
I can see your thinking though.
Yeah. But no, so I was, but for distance, not for accuracy. And obviously boccia is more about a target sport. So not a lot of, it didn't work. We also played sports like polybat, in outdoor athletics, and then once I went to secondary school, I got a bit old for it. Like they stopped doing it for us. So yeah.
Annoying.
Yeah.
So you had to stick with boccia at that point.
Yeah, we had lots of competitions anyway. We had competitions. We had the National Athletics Championships in Blackpool every year as well. So I mean, there's no shortage of competitions. And the Stoke Mandeville one was a bit of a, without being harsh to it, it was a little bit of a at that point.
Not an exciting one.
It was a little bit too easy at that point. And as a school, we were one of those. We were a bit like a cross between Trinians and Hogwarts. We'd rock up in this massive coach, and we'd basically win all the medals and then go home again. And all these other poor disabled kids going in their little minibuses, we're looking down on them from our regal position as we then rock off in our coach.
Wipe them out and then leave.
So that was good old days.
Can you, for those of people who don't know, maybe just explain what boccia is and how it's played?
So boccia's a bowls type game played by those with severe disabilities. Sometimes cerebral palsy, sometimes like spinal injuries or paraplegics or muscular dystrophy. There's 4 categories, so BC 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm in the BC1 class, which is those with cerebral palsy or brain sort of damage, those sort of disabilities. Basically, we're able to throw just about, but we have limited trunk control and limited range of movement and sort of a relatively weak throw. And then you have BC2s, which are a little bit more able, so better trunk control. They might not necessarily be in electric wheelchairs. They might be in manuals. They might be able to self-propel a little bit. All these sort of things. And then BC3 are those that can't throw at all. So they used what we call a ramp or assistive device. Again, that doesn't matter what disability you are. You play whether you've got CP or MD or any. If you can't throw a ball, then you'll be at BC3. And then the last class is BC4, which is basically the same as 1 and 2, but without the CP thing. So again, it's sort of acquired disabilities.
Okay. Well, and it shouldn't be underestimated as a sport because it's so tactical, but also you have to have so much precision. Like, I've played it before and it's so hard.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strength involved as well because the balls we play with are quite soft, and the court's 10 by 6 meters. So in terms of you need quite a lot of strength, and also to be able to move balls around and generate the forces needed to open things up and create space for yourself. Again, it's not just about being precise. It's a bit of power involved as well. And
you generally have to throw it quite a long way, don't you?
Yeah, so it depends on it depends on how you choose to play. But like I said, the area of the court is huge. So it's 10 meters by 6.
Yeah.
And the minimum distance you can throw the jack is between 1.5 and 3 meters, depending on the width. And yeah, so you've got a very limited, you've got an unlimited area to put it in, basically, and no jacks in the same place twice, and it's just based on feel, and sometimes it goes into a weird position, like, oh shit, I haven't played here before, I have to see how this goes.
It's like the hope for the best almost. Let's give it a go. But yeah, an incredible sport, and like you say, it's a really good sport to watch. It's definitely a good spectator sport. So.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before your love for boccia wasn't necessarily there from the start.
Yeah.
So you decided to do it because of was it because of the accuracy mainly, do you think?
Yeah, it was just because the competition structure just lent itself to, there was always something, it was always another competition, whereas with some of the other competitions, particularly with athletics, you'd go to a regional championships, you then go to the nationals, you'd win 8 or 9 gold medals, and then you'd come home and that would be it for the year. And it was the same pretty much for me. It was the same 5 years running. There was no sort of call up to the national standard because classifications was weird in athletics anyway. And I was in the wrong end of the classification scale. So again, and boccia just seemed, there was a competition structure, there was international competitions. And 1 year I literally just qualified for the British Championships. Went up to Scotland with my assistant at the time and another member of school staff. In it, we nicked a minibus and just went up to Scotland in it. And then we got up there, and I wasn't expecting anything, and I ended up bloody winning the damn thing. And it was just
you make it sound so easy.
Yeah, it was quite easy. It was. So I was only 14 at the time.
Okay.
And no, I even beat the British captain at that point. And then the year later they went to Athens. And that was kind of my path into the sport, I guess, because once I'd started, once you get a scalp under your belt, I could say I'd beaten him, I'd beaten him, I'd beaten him, I'd beaten him. People just, and it opened up. And I became dominant in the UK ever since, really. And then obviously that meant in call-ups to international competitions.
And is that where you became on GB's radar?
Yeah, and at the time we didn't compete under GB unless it was a Paralympic Games. It was England, Scotland, and all separate. Yeah. But they were killing us in terms of the ranking points because Scotland were hopeless. So England would rack up a load of points, Scotland would come last, and then the average would be GB somewhere in the middle, which, and obviously for qualifying for Beijing, you had to be in the top 8.
Yeah.
And so if England are up in the top 2 or 3 in Europe, and then you've got Scotland who are like 32nd in the world, GB doesn't fall in that slot if you average the score up. So it was decided quite quickly to bring everybody together, including Wales, under one banner at last. And then obviously GB sort of came on like that. And yeah, it was great once that happened. everything sort of flew. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't change much the people getting selected, because the best Scottish players were still getting in, and obviously the best English players as well. So it didn't make any real difference to who went to these competitions. It just meant when we were there, we were a bit more competitive, and B, we didn't have to worry about our friends costing us places for next competitions and stuff due to lack of ranking points. And yeah, so and I became world champion at the age of 18 in 2007. And obviously we won the team gold at that point as well. That was the GB team, and yeah,
was that your international debut or not though?
No, that was I'd been in internationals that was my third major.
Okay.
So my second world championships and my third major. So I was still a relative green.
Yeah, but how old were you when you first made your international debut?
So I made my international debut at 15, but that was a friendly competition. First ranking event I went to, I was 16, and I played the world number 6 in my first game, and beat him 6-0. Poor bastard.
Such an evil laugh. Yeah. Oh, that's so.
I felt sorry for him. It wasn't his fault. I rocked up, was it? He was
young kid that's just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
No, amazing. So then you carried on competing, and you then got selected for Beijing. Is that right?
Yeah, I got selected for Beijing. Yeah.
And Beijing was your first ever Paralympics, and how was that? Was that an amazing feeling?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was really cool. That was probably at that sort of time. That was probably when I sort of decided that boccia was going to be a career kind of thing. Up until that point, I was a happy amateur.
How old were you at that age?
I was 19.
19. So that's probably the right age to decide that you could do it as a career.
And obviously, being world champion going into the tournament, I was expecting to do that again. But great thing with expectations is they don't always work. So my individual competition was a bit of a shit show, if I'm honest. But it was a lot of issues going on. But poor planning, all sorts of stuff related to just being young, I think, and also the people around me weren't quite right, and all sorts of stuff that we just.
You had a bit of a roller coaster with coaches at that point, didn't you?
Yeah. I lost my coach when I was in 2007. So, and then I was with someone that wasn't really my coach anymore, and it just didn't work. It was just and thankfully we came in the team. It was a lot easier because I was surrounded by people like Nigel, who I looked up to and I respected, and he was the captain, and he was able to sort of guide us through it. And I was at that sort of age where I was just point and shoot. Like, he would just tell me what to do, and I would do it. So captain's dream. He thinks what's going on, and I just do it. So we work quite well together in that sense. And obviously the team just hit a purple patch. We started off hopeless. I remember we nearly lost to Canada in the first game, which is like, what? Like, how'd you lose to them? And then they're not hopeless, but they're nearly. And like, we were expecting to win that one quite easily, and we didn't. And then after that, we had a bit of a rollicking from our coach, as you'd expect, and then we just slowly kicked on, and then by the semi and the final, we were flying.
That's amazing. And so, did you use that game as your learning curve? Let's find your feet. It's first Paralympics. Let's learn from this, and then you can go on to other Paralympics and improve. Yeah,
I don't know. I Beijing's still a bit of a blur. I was so young. I think I was just enjoying it. But no, I think the gold medal changed boccia in all sorts of ways. Like, it totally transformed the demographic of the sport in the UK.
Was that the first kind of put boccia on the map for the UK?
Yeah, because at that point we hadn't really been looked at in the UK sports circles and stuff. So we were still relatively. It was one of those sports people would kind of look at, oh, what are they doing here? Kind of, because it wasn't wheelchair rugby, basketball, or one of these sort of high intense sports. People kind of rolled their nose up it a bit. And probably that's when we started getting more notice. We'd already had like fast track camps and stuff before Beijing, which is when the UK sport started putting more resources into us. But it was
Yeah.
still sort of suck it and see kind of level rather than anything too concrete. And then after Beijing, we got a new performance director, and things just became more in line with other sports in the UK. And we just, and we got a significant funding increase as well, which helps obviously. And then and all the developments from then on have been about increasing the strength and depth of all the classifications. And I think we've done that. And we're, the team now is totally different to what it was back then. And obviously from my point of view, London was a no-brainer. If I was still competitive, I'd be going. And obviously it took a little bit of time to reinvent myself after I had a bit of a dip in 2010. Not a dip. I think just people just overtook me, and I hadn't, because I'd been at uni. I'd been doing Freshers Week and all this sort of uni lifestyle.
Making the most.
I probably let it slip a bit and just not pushed on as well as I could have done. And
do you think you lost any confidence from Beijing, from the individual event?
No, because I won the Europeans the next year. I smashed the Europeans straight afterwards. Beijing was just a blip. I knew there was a lot more issues than just me personally, and I knew I was a lot better than that. Like I beat the guy that came second, so it's just that I lost the first two pool games, which killed me. But I ended up beating the chap who got the silver medal. So it was not there's no issue with confidence.
That's good.
And then obviously Europeans came back stronger and went straight to world number one because they reset the ranking. They reset the world rankings at that point. And then obviously 2010 came and I didn't do so well. And again, the Asian countries started coming in at that point, a lot stronger. And it just, the game, the level of the sport just rocketed, just shot up going into London. It got really intense really quickly. And it took me a couple of years to get back to that. And even in London, I wasn't quite the best. I finished where I was in my mind. I finished second in the world. So that was okay.
And do you think in that cycle between Beijing and London, that's where boccia became more elite and professional kind of sport?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole sport evolved, including our own in terms of the UK. And then and obviously from our point of view, it became more enjoyable as well because it was more professional. And
that must be really exciting going into London then for you to be competing at a home crowd with a really established, well-known sport now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it made a difference having people. And also, there's a big boccia community in the UK anyway. To be fair, in all of the Paralympic Games, we've had really good boccia support. It seems to be quite a good spectator sport. The crowd just seem to love it. So, great. So we sold out in London and we sold out in Rio as well. It's been pretty cool.
I heard the crowds in Rio were huge. Like they had to tell them to be quiet, and then everyone was like, "No, don't. That's really great." Always, because I think Brazilians are quite enthusiastic.
Well, also they have a strong team in boccia. They had a strong team, and so they were strong in all classes. So they had medal hopefuls. So why not? And obviously, their Paralympic team across the board isn't as strong as ours. So any medals they pick up are celebrated a bit more, I think.
Usually,
individually.
Yeah.
Obviously, for us, it's just we pick up so many. Sometimes you can get lost in the crowd.
Yeah. So London, you won 2 medals, and that was the first games where you won 2 medals. What did you win?
So I got a silver in the individuals, and then we got a bronze in the team. So, and that was probably, to be honest, that's probably about right. At the time, I was satisfied with that. We probably maximised what we could from that. The team was on a bit of at that point, we were on a downward spiral. We'd just been overtaken, and we weren't able to match the new up and coming like Thailand at that point, who are still dominant to this day, to be honest. And we just weren't able to match that level.
Yeah.
So But
But you'd improved
we
on your
maximised what we
individual.
could do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And as an individual, again, at that point, the aim was to medal just to prove that I deserved to be there. I knew I did, but it was just to kind of let everybody else know that I was, not just a world champion. So I could do it when it mattered. So yeah, that was my thing. I went in as number 2 and came out as number 2. So yeah,
It's pretty solid. You stood your ground, which is good.
Yeah.
Exciting games. And so
then,
you've got a reputation of dyeing your hair different colours for each games.
Yeah.
Do you like to stand out? Is that your aim? Or are you just
the aim is to get noticed. The aim is to get noticed because we're not blessed with people noticing us. So that's the. I mean, it was a bit of a joke. Initially, the Nigel said to us, look, it's a team tradition that we will all dye our hair when we get into the village, and I believe that he was taking the mick in retrospect. But we all did it, and I went red, and Nigel dyed his hair white, and Dan also dyed his hair white, I think. So bleached it. So we all did it, and it just stuck, and I've used it. Obviously, I went with a slightly darker red in London because I didn't like the fact it went orange in Beijing. And then obviously for Rio, I went blue because they've got a bit of blue in their flag, and I figured they would appreciate that.
So was it for Tokyo? Why?
I'm probably going to go red again to go with the red dot.
Is it permanent when you do it?
Yeah, it's permanent. Yeah, until it grows out.
Yeah, nice. Are you stuck with it then? Well done. And so Rio, because Rio was exciting games for you. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes. You but you became Paralympic champion in your individual event.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rio was tough. If I'm honest. So the team, we really struggled in the team. I think just because people were on the way out of retirement and all that sort of stuff, and we just weren't quite at it when we needed to be, which was disappointing. A disappointing way to finish that era. And individually, again, had a dodge and didn't ended up on the wrong side of the draw. But then managed to make some significant changes before the quarterfinals, which meant that and changes to coaching and how we go about the match and all that sort of stuff. And we just hit the right formula, and I was able to take on the guy that had beaten me in the London final in the quarterfinals, and I knocked him out on a tiebreak. So
nice.
So that was cool. And then after that, semi-final was tough as well. I was 3-1 down, and I managed to come back again and won that 5-3. And then in the final, it was relatively straightforward, to be honest. Dan just sort of accepted that he was going to lose, I think, and that was that. So
do you think you thrive off that pressure though? If you are down, do you think you thrive off that, and then that pushes you even to do even better?
I don't know. I just tend to relax. I'm a terrible front runner.
You seemed a relaxed guy anyway, so you must be chilled in life.
I just tend to relax into it. Like even with when I'm a front runner, I'm awful to play against because I'll just keep going. I won't let up. People can't keep up with me. And then and if I'm trailing, again, I just relax, and people always have their eyes in the rear view mirror. And I just make sure I don't miss. And then if they cock up, then I'll jump on it. And if they don't, then I'll lose.
I think the definition of that is fearless. You just go for it. That's a good thing. So aiming towards Tokyo, you're going to try and defend because you qualified at the Europeans in 2019.
Yeah, that's right.
By becoming European champion, was it?
Yeah, European champion again. Yeah. So that was a fairly. I've had a fairly straightforward 4 years. Touch wood. So
don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
So I've won it. Well, apart from the pandemic. So I've won everything. I've won everything in terms of the majors and stuff that there is to win. So It's made my route in fairly panic free. And yeah, so going into Tokyo, it's just about defending, being, improving, making sure I'm in a better shape than I was going into Liverpool, which I am. So yeah, I'm pretty confident. I've got some rivals, but
yeah. So who are your rivals? Who do we need to
so there's a guy, there's Hoop Pratit from Thailand. He's world number 2 at the minute. He's a tidy player. We have good battles. And then obviously Daniel Perez from Holland, who got the silver in Rio. And then obviously there's quite a there's a blanket of players from ranked probably. There's Gutnik from Russia. Michal Gutnik. So again, another up and coming player. He's been around for a while, but he's never qualified for a Paralympics before, so this will be great for him.
Wow.
So yeah, it's cool. He's a good guy, good player as well. So there's about 4 of us, and then below that, between 8 to 10, there's a blanket of players that are all pretty good and can all play well on their day. So yeah, it's quite a lot of depth in the sport in general.
So it could be quite a close competition, maybe.
Yeah, it's usually close. Yeah, it's usually tight. Depends on it depends on who turns up and how well people play. But yeah.
Fab, exciting. And so how has COVID really affected your training? I mean, obviously you haven't been able to train in the sports hall, but have you been training at home? Have you been able to do anything at home?
Yeah, so training's been all right. Ironically, one of the benefits of not training is that I don't have to see as much physio. So the isolation from that sense has been a perk. Just that my physio, the lack of physio hasn't been too much of an issue. Touch wood. So yeah. So from that sense, all good. Physically, I feel as good as I was. I've been able to got back on court, and they've been bedded in quite quickly, and they work. So that's good. So a few more strings to my bow. Obviously, been back on court now for just over a month. Twice a week. So Fire Gardens, and again, that's been good. They've been really good, and it's been nice and isolated, so no risks really. So yeah, that's going to continue, even though Wales and even though Swansea and Cardiff now in lockdown again. I'm exempt because I'm elite, and I'm not in shielding anymore. So it's good. So it means I don't have to take a backward step. Obviously, I'm not going to push it any further like we're doing, like training with other people and stuff. I'm just going to stick to myself for now. But yeah, it's definitely better than nothing. And I've got a new water rower that I use in my flat, which means I don't have to go to the gym anymore. Really.
Well, you're frozen again.
Before.
Like you're back. Carry on.
Yeah, there's not much I need to go to the gym for anymore. So yeah, that's good. The rower helps, and it just means that I can train full on at home and not have to worry about it. So and I've been able to organise sort of physio as well again now in a sort of more COVID friendly way.
Yeah.
But again, that's all good. So touch wood, I'm at a fairly good place. Not full training or by any means, but close enough to be able to stay ticking over. Exciting.
And so I'm guessing competitions haven't started again yet either.
Competition's unlikely to start until March next year.
Yeah. So that's quite close to the Paralympics then to then start competition again, because you won't really have any benchmark of where anyone is at until then, will you?
No, but then to be fair, like most normal boccia season starts around March, and then goes through to the summer anyway. So yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I just see it as like this is my winter training almost, and then going into March will be going into the technical phase, and then leading into the main sort of competition phase at the end of the summer with Tokyo. So yeah, that's it. I'm not too worried.
Good timing then. Perfect timing.
The lockdown's been good for us in many ways. It's given me a chance to do a few different things, and it's given the team a chance to come together a bit closer, because we were a developing team and we were ranked 8 in the world, so we're probably an outside shot of a medal, if I'm honest. But this year has just given us a chance to get in a little bit more psychology work and a little bit more sort of around the team dynamics and stuff. And it just gives us one more year. And so by next year, I wouldn't write us off either. So yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm finding this, that athletes have found it a little bit thankful just to have that one extra year to like find their feet again. And yeah, it's not been as rushed, which has been good. So
yeah, it's a good time to reflect.
Yeah, I can imagine. Speaking of which, my final question that I always ask everyone is like, I think when you're doing sport, it's always important to have some downtime and relax and have some time for yourself. So what is your guilty pleasure? What do you like to do to unwind? It can be anything. It could be like food. It can be like Netflix or anything you want. What's your guilty pleasure? Oh, and you're frozen.
With some dodgy snacks and a gin and tonic and something, or a film.
You might have to start that again. You froze in a very thoughtful way.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about probably at the minute it's sort of maybe just watching like Match of the Day or a film or something on Netflix, with some dodgy snacks and a gin and tonic. And
you're a gin and tonic fan, are you? I like that.
Yeah. So that's my at the minute. Normally, if I was out, cinema trips or going down to the beach, I've still been able to do that occasionally. But again, obviously in current climate, I've got to be a bit more careful about that. But yeah, I mean, living close to the beach is quite nice here, so I get plenty of places to go for a walk and get some fresh air. And
you're a big fan of driving too, aren't you? So do you like going out for drives or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I to be honest, I've done so many mileage lately that well, not lately, but in the last couple of years that it's sort of become a bit of a mundane thing now. It's like, I'd rather just leave the car in the garage and not see it for a week.
Fair enough.
But no, I do like driving. It's something I enjoy, particularly like country roads and going into the country a bit.
Yeah, I was finding that during lockdown I was missing driving quite a lot. I just was going out for drives because I wanted to drive my car. So
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I think I've taken up so much of your time, so
I'll
leave you be to enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
No worries. Cool. Let me know if you need anything else.